A return to a remote Scottish castle descends into a nightmare, as a young woman finds herself trapped among feuding relatives, with family secrets and unsettling carnal temptations abound. Meanwhile, a mysterious killer stalks the castle's endless corridors. Rumours of a vampire only deepen the mystery, making it impossible to tell who, or what, is responsible for the crimes. My initial plan for this month's Sunday cinema video was to review John Ford's classic 1946 western, My Darling Clementine, an admittedly late entry for the western-themed YouTube event, June on the Range. However, when I found out about Giallo July, a reading and watching event celebrating one of my favourite ever subgenres, the Giallo, I couldn't miss out on the opportunity to take part. Giallo July is hosted by the channels The Bookubus and My Nostalgic Life, and aims to celebrate both Giallo books and Giallo cinema. The first prompt of the month is for a film or book with yellow on the cover. As part of this, I'm currently outlining a script for review of one of my favourite Giallo films of all time, Dario Argento's 1982 masterpiece, Tenebrae. However, as that video will likely take a bit of work to really do justice to the film's merits and complexities, I'm instead jumping ahead to the second prompt, an animal in the title or on the cover, to discuss this strange 1973 work from director Antonio Margheriti, 7 Deaths in the Cat's Eyes. Before we begin, we should probably outline what we mean by the term giallo. The term giallo, Italian for yellow, comes from a series of yellow-covered crime and mystery novels published by the Italian company Mondadori, beginning in 1929. As these books became more popular, giallo in Italy became a shorthand for crime fiction in general. When filmmakers such as Mario Bava and Dario Argento later adapted the conventions of these pulp mysteries into highly stylized films during the 1960s and early 1970s, the name stuck, eventually coming to describe a distinctive cinematic genre that fused detective stories with psychological horror, violence, suspense, and bold visual stylizations. 7 Deaths in the Cat's Eyes, or Death in the Cat's Eyes to give it the literal translation from the Italian, the numerical prefix, likely added by international distributors looking to capitalize on the earlier successes of films like 4 Flies on Grey Velvet, $5 for an August Moon, and The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, among others, is an interesting film in this context, as it's one that sits comfortably within 2 spheres of popular Italian genre cinema. First, it has elements of the Gothic horror, suggesting the influences of films like I Vampiri from 1957, Black Sunday from 1960, or Lady Morgan's Vengeance from 1965. Here, wealthy characters gather at a brooding estate to grapple with long-held family secrets, animosities, and murderous greed. Second and more significant, perhaps, is the influence of the giallo, with the point-of-view shots of black-gloved killers stalking the shadows of this palatial country estate remind us of the influence of Argento's groundbreaking The Bird with the Crystal Plumage from 1970, and where the title's allusions to animals and a specific number of forewarned victims plays into the expectations of the genre's usual emphasis on murder, mystery, and suspicion. Many films in this Italian Gothic tradition are often erroneously referred to as giallo films, but this one, helmed by the prolific Margheriti, director of the earlier Gothic horror classic The Long Hair of Death from 1964, has some legitimacy to the claim. In the film, actor and pop star Jane Birkin plays Coringa, a young woman returning to her family castle in the Highlands of Scotland, where she immediately becomes embroiled in a veritable soap opera of familial dysfunction, psychosexual intrigues, and various dark conspiracies. There's a touch of eccentricity here, as Margheriti incorporates a rogues gallery of suspicious characters, including Hiram Keller as a handsome young lord who might have killed his sister, Doris Kuntzmann as a French teacher with hidden sexual desires, and Anton Diffring as a doctor with more than medicine on his mind. There's also a potentially violent gorilla that lives with Keller's character Lord James McGreef, as well as that all-seeing cat that bears witness to each of the ensuing murders, with both of these animal companions adding to the sense of the strange and the uncanny. From the very beginning, the film has a slow, simmering tension, a sense of dread which permeates the initial family reunion, as accusations are made and motives for murder seem manifest in every lingering close-up of these highly strung characters. As often with this type of Italian genre cinema, it would be very easy to focus on the more salacious aspects of the film, dismissing it as a work of B-movie exploitation, more focused on delivering violent or sexual set pieces than properly grappling with the plausible psychological motivations of the characters. But I don't think this is true at all with the film in question. From that first dinner table conversation between the central characters, the film's themes of family inheritance and the greed and resentments that often come with it give the film an element of class commentary. This Gothic predilection for decadent aristocracies, family secrets, forbidden love, and the compelling forces of greed, guilt, lust, and desire are then accentuated by the more unsettling scenes of lone victims being picked off one by one, as the gaze of the killer, prowling the cavernous corridors of Coringa's ancestral estate, adds to the film's stifling claustrophobic tone, and the sense that anyone could be a potential suspect, or potential victim. There's also a consistent theme of modernity versus tradition, where the influence of psychiatry and discussions on the theories of Sigmund Freud suggest the changing attitudes of the early 20th century, where the study of psychology and more permissive ideas around liberty and sexuality was slowly replacing the beliefs and superstitions of religion and spirituality. That an early scene involves Coringa, herself having once been expelled from a convent school, accidentally casting her Bible into an open fireplace, provides a significant portent of sorts to the violent reckoning that will soon be unleashed. Such symbolism feels inherently significant as part of this wider thematic context, where Lord James's talk of the sacred and the profane, and the rejection of God and as such the unspoken acceptance of evil, again play into more conventional puritanical fears of classic Gothic horror. In this sense, the collision between the influence of Gothic horror and the more modern influence of the Giallo ties into the film's own thematic intersection between the past and present. The generational divide between the film's older characters, typified here by Coringa's aunt and mother, as well as the duplicitous Dr. Franz, is another key theme of the film, where these older characters, concerned only with preserving their legacies of inherited or generational wealth, are contrasted by the whims and anxieties of the younger characters, instead typified by James and Coringa, whose more modern outlooks leave them feeling trapped by a family lineage, which is both stifling and oppressive. These thematic elements are consistent throughout the film, present in the revelation of the killer's identity, which I won't spoil, but which nonetheless introduces further ideas around hypocrisy, masks, and the literal personification of this theme of buried secrets hiding beneath the surface of outward respectability. The film is interesting on a technical level as well. Here the constantly roving camera with its slow zooms and subtle tracking shots moves with a distracted eye. Perhaps it's the curious eye of that titular cat, ever present, ever watchful as these scenes of murder occur in shadowy cemeteries, or the dim firelit rooms of the castle itself. Or perhaps in true Giallo fashion, it represents the gaze of someone with a more murderous intent. As with most Italian genre films from this period, the dubbing of the actors' voices in post-production make it difficult to gauge performances on a naturalistic level. However, in terms of the physicality of the performances, I think the actors do very well, especially with those tremendous reaction shots, which really sell the simmering tensions and resentments of each character. While I don't mean to diminish the efforts of the other actors in the film, I'd argue that the performance of the cat might be the strongest performance here. They have a real screen presence, the inscrutability of their gaze allowing the viewer to project thoughts and feelings onto the cat, as they provide silent witness to the unravelling dysfunctions of the family and their fall from grace. The cat also provides some truly withering side-eye, and moments of brooding rage far beyond their human co-stars. As lead, Birkin would go on to give much better performances in later films like Evil Under the Sun, Love on the Ground, and The Pirate, among others. However, she's undoubtedly at her most striking in the film in question. As the waifish, wide-eyed and slightly unknowable protagonist Coringa, Birkin is an always welcome presence, giving the film a modish, deliberately anachronistic style. A kind of thoroughly modern Millie let loose on the House of Usher, which again illustrates Margheriti's efforts to enliven the potentially staid conventions of the Gothic horror with the more permissive attitudes, styles and characteristics of the Giallo films of the same period. Birkin's partner at the time, the singer-songwriter Serge Gainsbourg, also makes an appearance here, In contrast to his more debaucherous pop persona, typified by his chart-topping 1967 collaboration with Birkin, the controversial Je t'aime moi non plus, Gainsbourg uncharacteristically plays the part of a laconic police inspector. In the English-language version of the film, he's dubbed over with a Scottish accent that's less William Wallace, more Groundskeeper Willie, which does feel especially out of character for Gainsbourg, who is one of the most quintessentially French of French cultural icons. Nonetheless, the casting of Gainsbourg alongside Birkin only adds to the film's curious pop cultural appeal. While the pacing of the film is sometimes prosaic, even old-fashioned compared to the more propulsive likes of The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, or Lucio Fulci's 1971 film A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eyes remains a no less interesting film. From the outset, it features a strong, often sombre atmosphere rich in mystery and suspense, while other moments of the film lean into something almost psychedelic, including an early dream sequence rich in surreal if horrifying imagery, and some exceptional use of light and colour during the final act, which hints towards the kind of vibrant phantasmagoria of later Argento films like Suspiria from 1977. This makes Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eyes something of a close, if unintended, companion piece to last month's Sunday cinema title, The Ballad of Tam Lin. But what are your thoughts on the film in question? Gothic horror, Giallo mystery, or something in between? As ever, thanks for watching.